What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another episode of The Drive-In where I talk to you guys about recent horror movies that have come out in theaters or have just been released to the public. And this one is pretty interesting. This one is a current Netflix movie that just came out on Netflix. It's a new release maybe about 2 weeks ago. It's been in my queue. It's been talked about. It's rather polarizing for a smaller film. It is 2018's He's Out There. Now, this was released around September of 2018, but just came out on Netflix exclusively, I believe, a few weeks ago. So as of this recording, middle of April 2019, you guys can go check out He's Out There on Netflix. This is a slasher film that I will be spoiling. So if you guys have not seen it and want to see it, pause this video, go check that out. But today on The Drive-In, I wanted to talk about He's Out There because it is in my favorite genre, the slasher genre. By and large, it is a run-of-the-mill slasher film. Not reinventing the wheel, nothing crazy, but I love the fact that slashers are back in the modern conscience of horror in 2019. We saw it last year with the return of Halloween. We saw it with Hellfest. This movie, He's Out There. A couple of years ago, we saw it with Hush from Mike Flanagan. These slashers are returning in smart ways to the modern horror genre, and I love it so much. This one's pretty interesting. Directed by Quinn Lasher or Dennis Iliadis. I'll get to that in a second. Written by Mike Scannell and starring Yvonne Strahovski, Anna Nowowski, Abigail Nowowski, and Ryan McDonald. I hope I didn't butcher those names. This is a movie about a family taking a trip up to their cabin home, their summer home, for a little vacation over the weekend, and they get encountered by a crazy madman who is outside stalking them and threatening to kill their family. Again, nothing super original about this idea. We've seen the cabin in the woods stalker before, but darned if it doesn't almost always work. I mean, sometimes it can be a little redundant or silly, but this was a nice dark tone. It had a good location, and it just checked the boxes for classic slasher nuances. And I feel like most times, even though it's not super original and you kind of know what's going to happen, anytime you have a secluded location, you build tension, and you have somebody outside stalking a family inside, it's always a good time. This was only an hour and a half. It was paced very well. Basically, Yvonne Strahovski's character, who's famous, she's in like CSI. She was in 24, the new 24 thing. She's done some stuff for the Lego movies. She's well known, very powerful actress. She led the way acting here. Yvonne was great. Her and her two daughters go out to this cabin in the woods they've had for several years now. And the husband is lagging behind. He has to do something back at home first and wants to meet them later. And they come to find that the guy who used to live in their house, who grew up as a little bit mentally challenged or handicapped or something, somebody that was just mentally out there. His family that used to live in the cabin this family lives in now, they lost their son. He ran away, was never found. And he winds up stalking this family and trying to kill them one by one. The devices they use to frame this, the movie opens up with child narration. I love narration when it's used well. I love creepy children when they're used well. I love child's voices. I love narration when it's done to frame a story. One of the children is reading a child's book about a mouse and a crow. The crow being the darkness and the mouse being the light, and the mouse trying to figure out where the darkness comes from. And that's the framing device for this story, this storybook they have that was left there for them by the killer. We don't know that yet, but it was left there for them by this killer. And we hear about the darkness and the light and the cat and mouse game and chasing the mouse and all this stuff. And it sets the ambiance for a creepy movie. The soundtrack was very old school, was very 80s style, hard hits, big booms, nice sound design in this movie. The pounding of the doors, the creepy sound effects at the right times, the jump scares were done very well in this movie. Nothing super original, but just very well done. Again, the pacing was good. The acting was strong. Not only was Yvonne strong, but the two sisters here, that might have been twins, I think just sisters. But Anna and Abigail Nowowski, again, I apologize if I mispronounce those, but child actors can be very tough to cast in these movies and can usually grate on people's nerves. These two young ladies were very, very good. They're playing in the forest, and one eats a poisoned cupcake which ratchets up the tension and makes her growingly sick and harder to look after as time goes on. And you wonder at times when the parents aren't around if these two young girls, who are all of like, I think one is like 9 and one is like 5, if they can survive this killer with this stranger approaching them that we don't know. So a lot of tension, good use of the kids, strong acting throughout. Ryan McDonald plays the killer in this, who has a really cool mask. But again, he used to live in this house. He's been stalking. He's a little like mentally unstable. He's been stalking this family for years now. He uses like the storybook to write his own little story in to pass to the kids. He makes the faucets go. He makes the doors go. He sabotages the lights. He does stuff with building dolls out of the family, like putting dolls of the kids on the swings and making the swings go. He's just using props in this forest to play cat and mouse with this family. And with the sound design and with the powerful acting, it's just very strong. I was tense the entire time, even though this story has been told before. I just love the use of the killer using these props. They use some eggs at one point. They use a music box in the back that the father has bought for the kids. Once the father is killed, they use this box. At some point, it comes back later. So again, the prop designer and the location designer deserve major credit here because, once again, secluded cabin in the woods, beautiful cinematography, nice build of tension, and all the props we see early in the film are used later on, both inside and outside the house. So major props to the prop designer and the location designer in this movie. The one kind of weird thing, I was looking up information on this movie, and it had Quinn Lasher listed as director. No one knows who Quinn Lasher is, no credits to his name. Then we found that Dennis Iliadis, who is responsible for 2018's Delirium and The Last House on the Left remake, was initially penned for this project and suddenly dropped off and became Quinn Lasher. And initially the poster says, from the director of Last House on the Left, and then the new poster does not say that. So I don't know whether he was replaced when the studio dropped them. Screen Gems had this film and then dropped it. So we don't know if Dennis Iliadis got dropped or decided to quit the project, or if he's using Quinn Lasher as a pen name because he is not a fan of this project. I saw that it got some pretty bad reviews and got some pretty low ratings online, so maybe the company and the director wanted to disown this project or distance their name from this project. I don't know why. Again, the killer had a pretty cool story, even though it wasn't super, the backstory wasn't connected. The guy was just out of his mind and wanted to kill the family because they lived in his house. It wasn't super convoluted or attached, but again, it's a basic slasher. It's like Hellfest. You don't necessarily need a story for the killer, even though it'd be nice. It would be nice to connect the killer with the family. But if the killer's crazy and the killer's dressed well and the sound design's good and the location's good and the acting is good and the tension is good, you don't need some crazy convoluted story. This crazy guy used to live here, he ran away, and now he's stalking the family that lives there now. So that's a simple enough story to me. And again, while repetitive and redundant, I guess, as long as you have a good location and all those things match up well, I think you've got a good story here. This story ends, again, spoilers, this story ends when Dennis Iliadis is about to take over the kids. Yvonne's character comes and saves them. They go to drive away as the narration of the book comes to an end, which is, again, a nice use of prop and device. And they look back, and the killer who's laying on the ground, presumably dead, is not there anymore, so he lives to fight another day. It could be the ambiguous, scary ending, or it could be setting up for a sequel. Either way, I like this movie. Reviews weren't kind to it. It's just another Netflix horror slasher film. But again, to bring a slasher in here with a pretty cool killer, a solid story, and good acting, I like this for what it was. I'm going to give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. Big pleasant surprise here. Again, I just loved everything about the cinematography, the color grading, the sound design especially, and the strong acting. So if you guys like those things, and you guys like modern slashers and don't mind the story not being super interwoven and connected, I think you'll like this one. 7 out of 10 for me. What did you guys think of He's Out There if you've seen it on Netflix? If you have not, go check it out and tell me in the comments below what you think. And I will see you guys on the drive-in next time. Take care.